Hey, what's up? This is Mark at alchemist.camp, where we learn Elixir and Phoenix by building things. Today we're going to build comments into our podcast show pages. If you're just new to this series, go check out the Simple Phoenix Live View app series on alchemist.camp or youtube.com/alchemistcamp. Let's have a look at a show page here. Even though in the index it says that we have 3 comments, we don't see any comments, and we don't see any form to write them. We want it to look like it does in production, where we have comments listings down here, and there's a login button. Since we're not logged in, if we were logged in, it would show a form where we could enter a comment. So, first thing we should do is have a look at our podcast show page. Here you can see it's a very simple template. It's only 25 lines total. And we really don't need to do too much here. We'll just add a single template here, which will be for everything related to comments. So render comments.html. And this isn't created yet, so everything should break as soon as I save this. It does, because we don't have the template. So what we'll do next is we'll create that in the same directory as all the podcast templates. Do comments.html.eex, and for now we'll just do div with a class of comments. Start with just an h3, and we'll say comments inside the h3, and then we'll loop over all of the comments we have on our podcast. So for comment in podcast.comments, do, and inside of that we'll have div.comment and div.comment text. And inside that comment text, we'll just grab the data from the comment itself. So it'll be comment.html. Save that. And podcast is not available in the template. That's because in the show we have the podcast, but we didn't pass the assigns. So we'll just add the assigns here, assigns, and that should pass the exact same assigns that we had in the show page. So there we go, and you can see we already see 3 comments. Now these comments have markdown in them, and we're displaying it just as the escaped HTML. We don't really want to do that. So what we'll do is we'll pass this to the raw function, which will show the comment HTML as raw HTML instead of re-escaping it. And we see them here, italicized, so we're interpreting the tags how we want to. However, it's not safe to do this with user-generated content. We have already taken care of that in the Markdown converter itself, but you'd want to use something like the HTML sanitize X library to do this. HTML sanitize x.html5, and now we can be sure that the content has been sanitized, don't have any security issues in it. I'll just put this on its own line here so it's a little bit easier to see. On another line as well. There we go. It's a little bit easier to read now. We also need a div for our metadata, so div.meta, and the first bit of metadata we'll have will be an author, so span.author. And inside this author span, we want the author of the comment, so that's going to be comment.author.name. Then let's also add the time ago. If I've already got timex in mix, let me just check here. Yeah, timex 361, and we'll do span.time ago, and this is the comment.updated at, because whenever someone edits a comment, we want that to be clear. So you can see that was the last update. We'll use timex to show how long it's been since the comment was, instead of just showing that date string. So timex.time from, and comment updated at, pass that in, save it, and from now is what it's called. Timex.from now. Save that, and there we go. 26 days ago, 18 days ago. Now we need to add an edit link for users who are the same user that's currently looking at something. So we'll say if comment.author.id is the same as the current user ID, and that's not safe to check since the current user could be nil. So we'll just make a quick helper here, which is solely for the purpose of preventing a nil error. We'll say CUID for current user ID is equal to current user, and using a short circuit logic, current user.id. So if there is a current user, the CUID will be its ID. If there isn't, then it'll be just nil, which is fine. We just want to check if it's the same as the comment author ID or not. So if that's the case, we'll do link edit to routes.comment path con edit and the comment in question. Save that, and looks good, although the current user I am isn't any of those. Let's see, I believe I have a comment on the third podcast. Yeah, so we can see this is written by user LKJ, and user LKJ can edit it, but this user can't edit ASDF's comments. All right, so with that set up, let's go on to the form. To add comment.html.ex, and this is going to be very similar to the comments form. So I'm actually just going to copy paste that comment form, copy paste the entire thing. All right, now let's see what we need to change. First will be this action. Since this is an add comment form, the action is always going to be creating a new comment. So routes.comment path create, con, then create. And let's also break this into separate lines and give the form a class as well. So we'll say class is going to be, actually I believe this has to go into a list, so class is going to be comment. And what do we not need? We don't need is published is flag. That's going to be handled by the admin. How about markdown? We definitely need markdown. We don't want HTML in the form. This is just going to be the form that goes inside of the podcast show page. We are going to need a couple of hidden inputs though, so we'll add those at the end. Hidden input form, first will be podcast ID, so podcast ID, we'll have to pass this into the form from outside, so it'll be a module attribute, podcast.id. And then we also want to get the current user ID from whoever is logged in writing the comment, so that that user ID will be associated with the comment. And there should always be a current user ID defined here, because the form won't even be shown if someone's not logged in. Syntax error before function. Let's see, comma, comma, comma. I think maybe, right, this has to go in a list like that. Okay. So our template compiles. Now to actually put it in the page, actually let's change this to say post comment, just like it does in production as well. Get rid of those. So submit will be post comment, and we'll put a class on this as well. Class will just be comment. All right, to use this form, we'll need to put it inside the comments template, which goes inside the podcast show template. but neither of those have access to a comments change set yet. So what we'll need to do is go to the go to the podcast controller and get a comments change set. Notice that when we create a new podcast, we use content.change_podcast to get a podcast change set. We'll do basically the same thing except for comment change sets in our podcast show. So we'll just paste that in there, and instead of content.change_podcast, we'll do content.change_comment, and this will be a content.comment, like so. Then of course we have to pass it into the show page, so change set is change set, and in our show page we'll have to use it. So podcast show, we've got a render comments at the bottom of our show.html, so we'll go to comments, and right up here after the h3 we'll render add comment.html to get the form rendered. Let's pass the assigns through this step as well. Assigns, no function clause, matching generic input. Looks like I may have made a mistake on the syntax there. Let's check the add comment here. We may have to separate this into an atom and a value, like this, value, and same thing on the user ID, value, and make user ID an atom, error before value. Okay, there we go. We have a comment form, and we'll just enter the simplest comment we can, and it looks like it worked. Looking on the page, we have our new comment. Now the problem is when we came back, it took us to the top of the page, and that's not quite ideal. What we want to do is we want to go to the specific part of the page where the comment was. In fact, let's get a longer page here so we have a clear view. So if we write a comment and it throws us up here, that's not really very good when all the comments are down here, and we may, we just lose our context. So let's add some URL fragments or anchors to our page. Looking at our comments here, we'll put an anchor for the comments themselves. We'll use an A tag and give it a class of utility, which will prevent it from having the same styling as an A tag normally would. And we'll give this a name of comment, or comments actually. Now, when we load up a page, we can go to the podcast episode page, then add an anchor and comments, and it'll take us to that specific, or it won't take us to a specific comment, it'll take us to the block of all the comments. And we can use this exact same strategy for the individual comments. So right where we start the for loop for the individual comment, we'll create a variable for its name. So name will be comment dash, and then whatever the comment's ID is. Since obviously we don't want every single comment to have the same name, otherwise the links would be useless and it would not be valid HTML. We'll add this new variable that we just created here, so name. And now we can try going to a specific comment. So we'll say comment-7. There we go. And let's just take a quick look at those IDs. So we can see comment number 7 here is at the bottom, right where it took us. And we've also got comment 3, comment 5, comment 6. So comments are going to be based on their ID, not how many comments are on the individual podcast. But overall, that's a pretty good system. We have a way to link to the comment section of any episode page. And we've also got a way to link to any individual comment. From here, you can probably guess a way to set up redirection so that anytime a new comment is created, that's where the user is sent. Keep in mind, anytime you're rendering a template inside of a template and passing assigns, you could always do a map.merge and pass more information, like a redirect URL. And if you've been coding along with these screencasts, or working on your own site with comments or some similar system, I highly recommend giving it a shot after this video and seeing if you can figure out how to put all the pieces together and get it so that after you edit a comment and hit back, it takes you to the specific comment you just finished editing. After you post a comment, it takes you to the new comment, which was just created. Just try hooking it all together. If you've got any suggestions or thoughts about this, definitely put them in the comments below this episode, and I look forward to hearing them. Next episode, I'll go over how I put all the pieces together, and then we can compare notes. See you next time.